further delay his presentation. So, I'd like to introduce to you Dr. David Byer, the CAFC Medical Director for Barbados. Dr. Byer.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Just a correction, it's not the CAFC Medical Director for Barbados. The CAFC is the Caribbean Association of Fire Chiefs, and it's under that organization for which I give this talk today. Is there control? Oh, my bad. So just a little bit about me. I reside in Barbados. I'm one of the emergency medicine consultants here. In fact, I'm who's responsible for pre-hospital care here in Barbados. I also coordinate on behalf of the University of West Indies emergency medicine as one of the emergency medicine lecturers, and also for pre-hospital courses, which we do at our Barbados Community College, which would be EMT, first responder, and paramedic. But today I'm speaking as the medical advisor to the CAFC, which is the Caribbean Association of Fire Chiefs, their Emergency Services Registry. Right, so just to say a little bit about the CAFC. It is represented as president is Chief Gregory Richards, who is from the United States Virgin Islands, and he sends his greetings. And it represents a whole myriad of Caribbean islands throughout. So the countries that it represents, and some of you may have ties to them, Anguilla, Antigua and Barbuda, Bahamas, Barbados, Bermuda, BVI, Belize, Cayman Islands, Dominica, Grenada, Guadeloupe, Guyana, Jamaica, and Martinique. It also represents Montserrat, St. Eustatius, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Lucia, St. Martin, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Saba, Suriname, Trinidad and Tobago, Turks and Caicos, and the United States Virgin Islands. So basically, these countries fall under the Caribbean Association of Fire Chiefs membership. And as far as the Emergency Services Advisory Council goes, it is led by Chief Fire Officer Hezlin Smith, who's from the Orlando Fire Department. He also has links to Jamaica. I am there. We have a representative from Jamaica, Superintendent Morgan, Dr. Flores, who's the medical director in Puerto Rico, Dr. Winston Warren, who's from Atlanta, Dr. Byer Kennedy, who also is from the Atlanta Fire Department, who's affiliated there as well, and Doreen Gums, who's from St. Vincent in the United States. So what did we want to do? So we decided that we want to contribute to the development of a Caribbean EMS strategic plan, and I'll tell you why in a few minutes. Provide support for EMS as an advisory council, conduct an appreciative inquiry of EMS in the Caribbean, develop an emergency services registry, both for pre-hospital care medical personnel as well as for fire personnel, develop EMS and firefighter minimum standard guidelines, as well as to standardize the credentialing and testing of firefighters and EMS providers. So, just a little bit about what is fire and EMS, and I guess all of us know, we constitute the extension of the emergency medical care and fire protection into the community. We have a major impact on property conservation and the saving of life, and it's proven in study after study that it's a major impact in terms of patient morbidity and patient mortality. So, what's the chain? In the field, you got a pre-hospital care personnel, you have the firefighter response who do scene stabilization. I should say that in Barbados and most of the Caribbean, the fire and the ambulance may be separate in some countries, but it's the same in others. And then basically this paves the way for what occurs in hospital, in the emergency room, and then following inpatient care. So it's not only just the people you see on the road, sorry, you have firefighters and all the other EMS providers, but also behind the scenes, dispatchers play a key role in terms of making sure that the right response gets to the right incident. And then there's the medical support themselves in terms of who support the process. In terms of other first responders, in various situations, the police, the lifeguards, and community responders play a big part in terms of preservation of property and life. So there are various systems, but the one that we follow most in the Caribbean is the Anglo-American system, which is the predominant model by pre-hospital care by non-physicians. But just to let you know, in the Caribbean, in Martinique and Guadeloupe, there's provision of pre-hospital care by physicians, what was once called the SAMU model. And in the Netherlands, remember the ABC islands, Aruba, Bonaire, Curacao, they also form part of the Caribbean as well. They provide pre-hospital care by nurses. So there are different templates that follow, but the pre-hospital care by non-physicians, treating non-physicians is the initial one. Throughout, there are private and public systems, they're fire-based and standalone, which is probably very common. There's BLS and ALS services in terms of the type of service they offer. There's full-time, there's volunteer. In some of the larger countries, they have urban and rural. The military, there's medical services and support services play a major role in terms of supporting in terms of crisis. And some of the larger countries also have air services vis-a-vis helicopter and fixed wing services. In terms of the actual Caribbean countries, it's an urban, most of the countries are urban and rural mix, mainly tourism-driven economies, and that's why it's so important that we actually achieve a high level of care, both from a fire and a medical perspective. Most of the countries have a single main hospital with supporting secondary hospitals or health clinics, and then there's private and there's public care systems which overlap. So the EMS key components in terms of the things that you need to get right to get an EMS system together, the human resources, the educational systems, public access, clinical care, the communication systems, the medical direction, the legislation and regulations, the public education and prevention, the integration of health services, the system finance, information systems, and the evaluation and research. However, I'll tell you, we did a little bit of appreciative inquiry through the Caribbean islands, and I'll tell you straight up, there are still many territories in the Caribbean where if you have a medical emergency, that you'll be unable to access basic quality pre-hospital care and transport in a timely fashion. And I'll tell you, some fire departments do not provide any EMS, while others provide first responder training providers and EMTs. So the situation as it stands, you have advanced countries which can do it, but you have other countries where you cannot call an ambulance at 11 o'clock in the night and somebody will come running. And it's something that they're trying to address by sort of calling on the fire chiefs to advance for the improvements in the system in their country. In terms of training, excuse me, on the ambulance or around, you find as you go through the Caribbean, most of the EMS personnel have little to no training, and most of the firefighters are only trained to fight fires. And this is something that we hope to improve. Entities also sometimes may have what they call rescue squads, which do only extrications, and then there's special operations squads, which only do hazmat. So there may be specialized pockets in some of the different islands, but for the most part, as far as the EMS goes, they're ambulance drivers, they're called ambulance attendants, they're called orderlies, who actually staff the actual ambulance. In terms of the actual training that exists, when we looked at it, there's a very low level of training for firefighters. Some people have done some competencies in airport or structural firefighting. On the EMS side, there are various people who train in North America, United Kingdom, parts of the European Union, Australasia, New Zealand, Australia, Africa, and the Caribbean region. As it stands now, regional training in EMT is done in Barbados, Trinidad, and Jamaica. The EMTI is done in Jamaica, and we have basically started the course over the last 5 to 10 years. But there's a problem, and the problem comes with continuous education and skills retention. in that there's no formal CNE or registration requirements for firefighters or EMS personnel. In addition, the volume of calls may be small, so the exposure to actual emergencies is quite limited. And basically, in terms of local pre-hospital systems, they have functional challenges. So, in terms of education systems for fire, some training is done in Barbados, Trinidad, Jamaica, and some folk will have exposure to the UK, US, etc. But again, as for the EMS, there are no formal renewal requirements, there's no standardized testing and assessment, and the local fire department design, there are some challenges in terms of the functionality. Right. So, on the EMS side, there is a marked disconnect between the pre-hospital personnel and the existing medical services. I'll tell you, going through medical school, I don't think a lot of doctors who graduate have a lot of appreciation for what happens on the pre-hospital side. It's only some of us who have been exposed to emergency medicine who are aware of what is done in the field and what is important. So as you go through the countries and stuff, you'll find there's a marked disconnect between the medical providers as well as the EMS, because they just see them as a transport mechanism and not much more. Again, they also, because the firefighters and the EMS people may not necessarily train or operate together, there may be a disconnect between them, and generally, throughout, there may be a lack of awareness and appreciation for pre-hospital intervention. So in most of the Caribbean countries, the school run system, which is where you drive as fast as you can to a scene, toss a guy in the back of the truck and drive off as fast as you can. I mean, it does have a place in some emergencies, but certainly that is what exists throughout the Caribbean in terms of most of the Caribbean countries. There's very limited patient intervention. Go back. Yeah, very limited patient interventions in most countries. Right. As far as the firefighting strategies go, some of it is quite simple. You put water on the hot stuff. The offensive strategies, basically in terms of getting a get up to the scene of fire, confine and extinguish. In terms of the airport response, I'm told has an exceptional equipment and stuff, but there may be some needs in terms of training. And there are various types of equipment available. Some of the apparatus is non-US type, but some of the PPE, personal protective equipment, is similar, and there have been donations by CAFC and some other organizations in terms of helping to support some of the problems throughout the Caribbean. So, the challenges also involve the scope of practice and the standards of care, given that even to the level of training that some of the guys may be trained to, they're not allowed to practice their skills because they don't have appropriate medical direction or online medical support. And in a lot of countries, no patient care reports, whether written or electronic, are generated. And that has its medical legal implications. There's limited access to pre-hospital care in that there may not be a universal access number in most countries. So, for instance, here is a 3-digit number. In a lot of countries, you have to call to the hospital, or it's a 7-digit number that you call, which a lot of people may not know what the number is. In addition, there certainly is not a whole lot of 911 systems around where you can get a centralized response of all your emergency responders. And ambulances and personnel may not be available around the clock. You'd be surprised that a lot of ambulance services knock off at 10 p.m., 11 p.m., 12 p.m. through the Caribbean. So if you have a crisis in the wee hours of the morning, again, you gotta wait until morning. In terms of dispatch systems, some countries, I mean, we've tried to do the priority dispatch system here, but certainly throughout, as an average, there's a lack of pre-arrival instructions, and things like ambulance tracking and rerouting is pretty much unheard of. Right. In terms of the actual vehicles, it's variable throughout countries, and there's no country or there's no regional standard. A lot of countries have commercial imported ambulances from North America and Europe, some of them given as donations, Ford, Chevys, Mercedes-Benz, Fiat, etc. But one thing is clear, they all have vehicular problems. Yeah? All the services cry out for this in terms of ambulances being done. And the problem comes because we take purpose-built ambulances for a temporary climate, as in the UK or the US. Basically, there are problems in terms of the petrol, there are problems in terms of the cooling systems, in terms of there's poor local maintenance because that ambulance may be the only one of its kind on the island, so there's no spare parts available. So you gotta wait for about 2 weeks or so you can lift it down from wherever or ship. And then there are logistical problems in that most of the ambulances from the US are left-hand drive, basically driving on the left-hand side of the road, which could be a little bit of a challenge. In addition, our road width, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but we have really narrow roads. Yeah, real tight. So again, some of the bigger trucks and stuff don't do quite well with guys striking and stuff. And then our road qualities, I don't know if you guys noticed the potholes. Well, again, it's here and it's right through the Caribbean, and vehicles tend not to stand up. So what most of the countries are doing are transitioning to more common vehicles on the roads. So we, for instance, have moved to Toyota. Some people have moved to Nissan, in that we're basically moving to ambulance, which also are used as taxis, route taxis, caravans, etc. So we know that yes, our ambulances and stuff, we may only have 6 to 8 on the island, but we know that there are many, many taxis around the same brand. So when it comes to actually getting parts and stuff, it's a lot easier. They're in stock. You don't need to order them from the US and stuff like that. So in terms of equipment on the vehicles, I mean, some vehicles carry portable oxygen and a reasonable level of basic equipment. But again, if you look throughout, there's a paucity of things like defects, AVs, vital signs like cardiac monitors, or other specialized equipment. Challenges again in terms of communications. Most countries and stuff in terms of radios, cellular phones and stuff, the communication cascade is not very, very good. There are also formal medical legal framework challenges in terms of the personnel. A lot of personnel don't need to be registered. It's something we're trying to work on here, but in other countries as well. They're also trying to work on the legislation to have the actual personnel registered to say that they can carry out their function, as well as common service operators, basically to make them have a standard that they can sign off on. Medical protocols and standards of care are rare, and so is online medical support. Right, and certain things to do in terms of data informational systems, quality assurance and evaluation, and research there's not a lot of data collection, so you find it hard to actually get a whole lot of information about the systems. I mean, we did this study by actually polling actual workers in the field. Right, in addition, there's a lack of integration with other health services, other formal public health safety responders in terms of co-training and coordination, certainly in a way in terms of multi and mass casualty management, disaster management, hazmat management, mass event planning. Sometimes there's basically in terms of coordination, there's a problem. In addition, we don't do enough in terms of public information and education. When to call an ambulance, in fact, a lot of calls will surprise you. People call the ambulance for like really minor stuff, as they do elsewhere. Again, things like public access, defibrillation, our voice needs to be led to that situation because it exists in some places, but certainly not enough. And then in terms of prevention, there's still a lot of countries throughout the Caribbean where things like seatbelt laws, motor vehicle helmet laws, and certainly impaired driving laws don't exist. And that basically allows for chaos on the roads. And certainly, as in most places, system finance is an issue, whereby in terms of people facilities, equipment, human resources, etc., it is something that's difficult to maintain. So, just to get back to our objectives, that we want basically to recognize, for folk to recognize pre-hospital care as a major element in the chain of emergency care, both at a local and regional government level, in the medical communities, the fire and rescue communities, and the disaster response communities. seek support to have CAFC and its Emergency Service Advisory Council recognized as an accepted body to credential regional emergency care providers and allow for actually free movement across borders, as well as regional borders, as well as international borders. Obtain support for the establishment of a registry where we can actually get a registry of trained personnel with different interests, whether it be hazmat, urban rescue, etc. So if there's a disaster, you can call within the community, within the Caribbean community for help. Establish some level of minimum standards, looking at in terms of personnel, the types of services, types of ambulance and what they have on, the insurance coverages, the scope of practice, etc. And gain support for efforts focused on credentialing new and continuing educational programs vis-a-vis at a cognitive and a psychomotor level. And lastly, and discuss basically among the actual stakeholders, both in the medical and in the fire community, how best that we can work together to foster formal relationships and improve and allow for better continuity of care for our populations. Right, so just a little bit about the registry before I wrap up. The registry basically will cover most of the items. And it will cover both EMS and fire personnel, and basically will allow for basic identification and for evaluation, credentialing and policy. And there will be different grades. This is an example of different grades of credentials that will be ascribed by CAFC. And everybody will get a patch to say that they basically have the level of appropriate credentialing as basically conferred by CAFC. So in terms of what we're looking for in the registry, name, country, agency, affiliation, some level of demographic data in terms of email and phone number. We're probably going to need to establish level of certification, expiration date, what basically where do you fall in terms of emergency services, rescue, fire, EMS, law enforcement, training civilians, and then basically look in terms of the training location, and then we want to set up some subcommittees within CAFC to look in terms of propagating the process. So, what's the way forward? Major strides need to be made in this vital area of emergency care, and development needs to be a multi-stakeholder involvement, and it needs to be governmental, medical community, fire and rescue community, and disaster response community. And it needs to be patient-geared, problem-based, evidence-based, cost-effective, network creation and use, systematic and all-inclusive. The items are so different that we probably can't adopt a system that's already established, a US system, a Canadian system, Australian system. We need to actually develop a Caribbean EMS type program which will basically cater to all the different nuances of different islands. So we want to develop integration of pre-hospital emergency care with national emergency care, and allow us to probably set up some local EMS, Caribbean EMS, much similar to how the firefighters and stuff have done. And we also looking to develop a Caribbean EMS agenda for the future to chart the course 5, 10, 15 years down the road. We started to do our bylaws, so that is a draft, and the final one has been done in terms of the actual advisory council. And we have done conferences. This is last year's conference in Dominica, where we started to do training throughout and try to actually start preaching this message throughout the Caribbean. But definitely support is required. We called on PAHO, and they're giving their support. We called on Savino, which is the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency, and they're giving us support. And certainly today we're calling on your organization to give us your support as well. I'm sure that this fight is one that most of you who've been in your neck of the woods is a fight that you recognize, because maybe something that you may have fought 10, 15, 20 years ago or even more. and may have actually charted the way, but probably know how those charted the way for us who are now fledgling. It is probably a fight that you may still be fighting in terms of basically getting your field emergency personnel recognized and basically seen as a part of the actual medical and homeland security framework in your jurisdiction. So thank you very much for listening to me. Thank you for having me. And on behalf of CAFC, thank you.